Regardless of the rank you're in, it can be incredibly frustrating to try to climb in Valorant. You watch video after video, listen to tip after tip, but none of it resonates and you don't really know what you need to do to get better and climb, and you're really a little bit lost. We have all been there, and that's why in this video, I'm going to give you my practical advice for every rank in Valorant. If you want to get better and climb out of it, then this is the perfect video for you. We're going to just break it down step by step, have a conversation, and talk about exactly what you need to do to make it to that next rank and the rank after and on and on. Now, the first rank we got to talk about is the Iron rank. And typically, there are two types of players that will be in Iron. And the first one is a player that is relatively new. Maybe this is your first PC game. Maybe you just swapped it for the first time. Whatever it is, you need to just play the game more. And if you're someone that hasn't really put that many hours into the game enough to play every single map multiple times, then this is my advice to you. Play the game more and you'll get better. It's really as simple as that right now. But the other thing that can happen to someone that is in Iron for a long time, even after they played for a while, or it's something that could even hinder your progress, is having really terrible settings and equipment. This could be a player that has way too high eDPI, or your in-game sensitivity times the mouse DPI that you have. I've coached and talked to many Iron players that didn't even know their mouse DPI, and that's definitely the first place you should start. On top of that, having the mouse space, the ability to have a low sensitivity and still be able to move. This is really important. Having a computer that is setting everything to the lowest settings possible so that you can have maxed out frames, at least getting to the thresholds of 60 and then ideally eventually 144 hertz. Now, some of these are going to matter more than others, but it is important that if you want to improve and have an enjoyable experience improving, then you should make sure that your settings and equipment are relatively in order. And we have a lot of videos on this channel that you can definitely check out right now in the links down below. But for many of you, bronze is where you will stay. And there's a lot of things that you need to start working on when you get to bronze, because just playing from here might not get you to the next level. And the first thing is mechanics. Tactical shooter mechanics are really different than a lot of FPSs. If you're in bronze, you are not getting that first shot accuracy a very high percentage of the time. So you need to learn the tactical shooter aspect of Valorant. And really, I would highly suggest setting your crosshair so that it moves when you're moving and it tells you how accurate you are. And the reason that I would do this is because you would be surprised how many times you think you're supposed to hit a shot, but you're not gonna hit it because you're actually still in motion. I really want you to slow down, focus on accuracy first, trying to be calm under pressure, and just focus most on hitting your shots. You could increase your speed later, but you will be very surprised when you take the game slower and you focus most on actually hitting legitimate first shot accuracy shots. People are whiffing all around you. People are running and gunning. People are shooting way before they should start shooting, and no one is killing someone instantly. And you might not feel like this is true, but take my advice, slow it down, make sure that you are the one being accurate, and focus on your mechanics, and bronze will be an absolute breeze for you. And if you think that this is not a tip that's applicable to you, because you've already worked on it, you're past this, well, if that was true, and I'm going to be honest with you here, you would not be in bronze anymore. Sometimes some truths are hard to hear, but they're really important for your development as a player, as they were for me when I was initially developing in FPS games. But sometimes you need a bit of a helping hand, and that's where SkillCapped comes in, where we have in-depth breakdowns of many of the top players in the world, breaking down their mentality and exactly what they do to be consistent and get better every single day. And if you incorporate these tactics, you're going to easily be able to climb no matter what rank you are, from Iron to Immortal and anything in between. So definitely check it out right now. And with our rank improvement money back guarantee, if you don't climb, you don't pay. So what are you waiting for? Check it out right now in the links down below. Now you fought and grinded through bronze, and now you're in the silver rank. But what do you do next? What do you work on most now? And I think that silver is where you need to start honing in on your ability use. Like, everyone is going to try to use it at all ranks, even in Iron and Bronze, but it's really common for people to try to use an ability and and not use it at the right time where they're not safe and die, or use it in a way that isn't matched up with the timing of your team, or even trying to accomplish what you wanted to. So you try to throw a molly in a corner and you miss the corner, and then you run out and you don't clear that corner, but you die. So that's just one example. Or you smoke and the smoke has a little bit of a crack in it. And there's all these little things that could add up to you losing rounds that you just wouldn't lose otherwise. And really what I want you to focus most on in Silver is trying to make sure that whenever you have a visual plan, like a plan in your mind that you want to accomplish with an ability, try to do it 100% of the time. Try to execute it 100% of the time. And if you ever mess up, I want you to either go into the server or like mark that down and think about it and be like, I messed that up. Let me try to do it better the next time. I know that a lot of this stuff seems kind of minimal, right? But you would be surprised how many little mistakes can add up throughout the course of a game. And that's why if you ever take a look and watch any Silver player's gameplay, you're going to see situations where they mess up an ability and it got them or their teammates killed. And it's going to happen many, many times throughout the course of a game. So I want you to really start focusing on that now. Do things correct first before you go overly quickly, before you try to think of complex strategies. Do the basics 100% correct. Try for it. I really don't want you to focus on anything else. I don't even want you to think about trying to do good game plans. I just want you to visualize something that you want to accomplish with an ability and then try for that every time. Note when it works and note when it doesn't, and try to improve that every single game. Now, next up, we do got to talk about the gold rank. And in the gold rank, I want you to start thinking about the more macro side of strategy, the overarching ideas around things like economy and the game, because this is where no longer can you just shoot your way out of it. I mean, if you're good enough mechanically, but reasonably, you're not going to just be able to learn how to have that first shot accuracy and use your abilities and just climb only with that unless you have above average mechanics and ability use, which in the natural progression of a player isn't going to be the standard. So anyways, in gold, the first thing I want you to think about is how your team and you connect to win rounds and how to link that up. So think of every round as a sort of investment where you are putting in abilities and money and all this stuff in the hopes of a big payout, which is a round win. And the better chance of y'all winning is when you all do the same thing at the same time. So if you're buying and you're trying to win, then you want to buy everything you can to try to win, which means rifles, armors, everything that you need in order to win that round. But if you're not committed to winning, don't waste money in that round that could hurt you when your team actually wants to win. There needs to be a really important distinction between rounds you are trying very hard to win as a team and other rounds that you're trying to get value where you can, but you're not necessarily committing all your resources into winning. And when I say resources, I mean money, abilities, ultimates, things like that. This means stop force buying every single round. This means stop buying at the cost of a future round. And this means just pay attention to your teammates. And if your team are not doing this, your team are just buying randomly, I just don't want you to be the one. Just because your gold teammates are incorporating all these bad habits doesn't mean you should follow suit, because that's the fastest way to stay there. That's why they're there. They have all these bad habits. Let's not follow them and use their bad habits as justification for ours. And now we did talk about in the previous rank to focus on ability use. You're going to use those more than ultimates, but now I really want you to think most about how you get value with your ultimates. And honestly, at the start, I would err on the side of aggression, meaning that you're going to use your ultimate often when you have it. I think sometimes players will not use their ultimates enough and they'll hold it for way too many rounds when they could have gotten value. I don't want that to happen, so try to at least get a lot of ultimates out so you can practice them. But then once you find consistent ways to get value and ult in those situations often, get consistent with it and evaluate your ultimates. Did they work? Did they not? After every single one. Next up in the plat rank. Now, this is really where I want you to focus most on specialization. And what I mean by that is try not to play too many characters. Like, you learned the game, you know the characters to an extent. I don't want you playing 7, 8, 9, 10 characters or playing mystery characters. You should really focus down your agent pool to a small set of characters, really 2-ish that you're really comfortable with that maybe play on different maps, and then one that is like a more flexible pick that you'll play when your optimal characters are not lined up with the map that you have or someone else on your team locked them. Basically, you want to have characters that you get a lot of repetition with. You get repetition against different characters. You get repetition on different different maps. You get to practice that character over and over and over again as much as you possibly can, because that's going to get you better and better. You know, you get to experiment with different ways to approach a map and different ways to fight different characters. And if you only play a character every once in a while, you don't get to really do that. So I want you to become amazing at a couple of characters. And like I said, on the situations or in the situations where you can't play your carry, you don't want to just lock something random. You want to lock something that you can get consistent value, some type of flex pick that allows you to play more fundamental, do things for your team, increase your win percentage overall. And there's other games that you're going to have to carry, but you don't have to carry every single one of them. And that's an important distinction. Now, on top of that, I want you to focus on your consistency, which really means trying to make sure you're warming up. You create a routine of practice that you do before every time you play ranked, and you make sure that you're relatively warm before you jump into games so that you don't throw like your first 2 to 4 games of the day. I think also something about plat is that you need to start trying to find ways to get value every round in ways you can. Now, this could be clear and concise comms. This could be getting a little bit of value, setting up a play for a teammate, or it could be getting a kill. There's a lot of ways to get value, but regardless of the round you're in and what disadvantage you're in, try to find a way to make it hard for the enemy to do what they want to do, whether they have to exchange resources, whether they have to straight up fight you at a chance of them dying. There's a lot of ways to get value, and you need to try for that. And the last up in the plat rank, I want you to start playing the objective more. Understand that killing everyone is not the way to win every round. Make sure that you're playing around rotating and planting, or playing to force people to check a defuse. These are really important things you need to master. We have a lot of videos on it on this channel that you can check out, but make sure that you're not just trying to hunt kills every single game. You need to start thinking a little bit more deeply about Valorant from here on out. Now, next up, we have Diamond, but there's a lot of things you need to work on in Diamond if you want to level up. And the first one is knowing advantage versus disadvantage. In previous videos, we've talked about when you have an advantage, you want to play your fundamental advantage. If you have a numbers advantage, you're 3v1, you don't want to go chase this person down and give them a whole bunch of 1v1s. Why? Because that allows them to take multiple advantaged or even fights and then potentially leverage that into an even fight, like a 1v1, right? And that's only possible if you challenge that person one at a time. So when you have a fundamental advantage, do not force 1v1s and do not take fights that play outside that advantage. But when you're at a disadvantage, you want to try to force these situations. When you're at a disadvantage, you're having spiked down with 3 people coming, you need to force a fight, because if you allow all 3 of them to fight at the same time, it's impossible to win. So this is a core concept that you need to apply to almost everything you're doing, and it's really important to really ingrain in your play automatically from Diamond on out, or you're going to be left in the dust and lose a lot of rounds because of it. On top of that, in the Diamond rank, if you want to go further, I would suggest you start trying to develop a game sense. And you might be asking, Mills, how do I develop a game sense? I want you to, of course, watch tips and tricks here on SkillCapped. Also, I want you to watch pro matches. I want you to watch pro players. I want you to start to learn the game. Why do teams play in a certain way? Why do teams and players use abilities in a certain way? You're developing a game sense and understanding of the game. Think about when people rotate. Think about when people plant. Think about when people smoke. Why do they do these things in a way that's different from yours? It's typically for a reason, and you can learn from that. Now, we all know mechanics matters in Diamond, but a tip I'll give you that's above that is I want you to learn how to fight unfair. Set up situations where it's really hard for the enemy to win. Whether that's an op angle, whether that's a double hold with a teammate, whether that's a one-way, whether that's a flash stun play into a dash, whatever it is, fight unfair. Find ways to fight unfair. Don't challenge someone 50-50 and just ego everyone in the game. It's cool to be able to do that, but play the strategy of the game and do that when you have to, not every single time. Because if you play unfair, then you're going to keep winning again and again and again. And they're going to be salty talking about mechanics, and they're going to be in Diamond while you're in Ascendant, Immortal, or beyond. Now, next up, Ascendant. And the funny thing is, the first thing I'm going to talk about is mechanics. Because as is every rank, there's like a linear scale with mechanics. But once we start getting to the higher ranks, you need to make sure that your mechanics are up to par. Because if they're not, then you're going to find yourself dying in situations where you're doing the right play and still dying, right? You're setting up a flash play, a peek, that person's 180 flicking, killing you, right? It doesn't matter how strategic you are. If they have good enough mechanics, they are destroying you. And that's why you need mechanics to allow you to perform. When you make right plays, you need to be able to perform. And also, you want to have higher and higher mechanics, higher levels of efficiency. So this means maybe doing aim laps. This means maybe warming up. This means practicing your mechanical skill in training. This means doing death matches. But it means putting in time and effort into your mechanics, optimizing your settings, optimizing your equipment. Now, everyone's going to have a different route to developing good mechanics, but it's only going to happen if you make a plan and you stick to it. This is very similar to, lifting weights or trying to get faster at running. You have to put in consistent effort. And if you practice really hard on your mechanics today, tomorrow you might not see any difference. But if you practiced really hard on your mechanics for 100 days, at the end of that 100th day, that person would 10-0 the current you. So I want you to put in steady progress every single day. Now, once you're in the Ascendant rank, I want you to start finally understanding meta. So up until this point, stuff like tier lists and random meta talk about pro play doesn't really matter because there's so many other factors that go into what works and doesn't work in ranked play. 5-man duelist rush is going to work all the way in plat, but once you get to Ascendant, it's going to work less and less because there's certain things that are required on certain maps and people understand the strategy enough to actually abuse you for not having it, like not having a Viper on Breeze or just having suboptimal characters on maps that don't really fit them. This doesn't mean that they can't work, but it's a good idea for you to understand the best and most played strategies at the highest ranks of playing in pro play so that you can understand how to counter them, what other teams are using to counter them, and how you can play the meta if that's what you want to. It's a good idea to know this stuff deeply because whether you're trying to adapt, counter, or any of the in-between, you need to understand what people are likely to play. In addition to that, in Ascendant, I think building disciplined actions is the way that you truly start to climb. This means not peeking angles all at once. This means systematically peeking angle, very deliberately from left to right. This means using abilities to isolate the potential angles that enemies can be in and developing a game plan in case enemies are there or aren't. This means making it so that regardless of whether or not an enemy is hiding in one spot or another or completely off site, you are prepared for it. And being disciplined and going through these actions is like making sure, doing your due diligence so that you don't die for free, you don't cost your teammates the round, and you're making sure to get consistent value. You got to be disciplined. Now, next up, we do got to talk about the Immortal rank. And in Immortal, as is most ranks, you need to make fewer mistakes. But really in Immortal, this is when I would start to say your mistakes are going to make or break you, not your plays. It's cool to get a 5K, but how many little mistakes you make in a round, that is what's going to decide whether or not you can climb or you can't. I would really suggest you do VOD review. Either VOD review from a coach or VOD review from yourself. And I think this is even better. Recording your own gameplay and watching back the games you think you performed bad or even good in and trying to find mistakes. Don't try to make it a blame fest where you're blaming your teammates. Who cares? You were in a game with them, now you're not. Try to find ways that you made the wrong call. You made the wrong play. You made the wrong rotation. You messed up an ability. Find these things and slowly start to diminish these mistakes. Every time you find a mistake and you work on it and you can eventually erase it, you're going to be that much better. And if you make a game or play a game with very, very few mistakes, you will climb over and over and over again. In addition to that, I want you to develop a certain amount of confidence. I know a lot of people in Immortal develop a sort of imposter syndrome, and I think that the only way to get through this is by making sure that you're training, making sure that you're practicing, making sure you're VOD reviewing. Basically, make that confidence with effort, understanding that you are putting more time, effort, and work into getting better than other people are. And then analysis. Analyze what pros are doing at the highest level and look at what strategies they're incorporating and see if you can start to incorporate some of those into your games. It'll also help you improve your game sense and get all that much better. And for Radiant, I don't have any advice to you. You already made it to the highest rank of play, but you need to ask yourself from here, what does grass feel like? No, I'm just kidding. You need to ask yourself from here, why do you play the game? What do you play? Do you want to become a pro? Then you need to start scrimming. You're probably always scrimming at this point. Do you just like to play and dominate people? Then become the freaking best. Just become better than everyone just because you want to. Whatever it is, you already know how to get here. You already know how to go beyond. It's just a matter of whether you're willing to put in the effort, whether your sanity is still intact, and yeah, let's be real, you're not watching this video. But anyways, thanks for watching the video. If you have any advice for someone in a rank that you climbed through, definitely comment it down below. And before we wrap this up, let me tell you a little bit more about SkillCapped. So we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that. Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really works. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium Valorant guides on the internet. We add new courses every month with over 1,000 guides curated into 50 courses no one can compare. We also have a direct line of communication with subscribers in our Discord so that you can get connected immediately to some of the best players in the game who will respond to any and all questions asked. Sign up today for as little as $6.99 a month if you are serious about improving. So that's gonna be all for this one today, and definitely check out SkillCapped right here. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.